How y'all doing? I'm making this video because I found out that one of the writers whose last series I was reading has just passed away. I'm a bit late, I'm going to admit. He died back in February 2018. I'm making this video in April of 2018. His name is Victor Milan, and the series I was reading was the Dinosaur Lords Series. Includes Dinosaur Lords, Dinosaur Knights, and the Dinosaur Princess. And of course the cover got me hooked. The concept of medieval knights using dinosaurs as mounts and beasts of burden to monsters. It's in a fantasy world. It combines two things I like very much. So I had to give it a go, see what it was about. And after the first book, a year later came the second book, and a year after that, the third book. And it was, to me, it was getting more and more impressive. I was getting more immersed. I was liking the characters. Unfortunately, the writer passed away back in February 2018. He was good close friends with George R. R. Martin, who wrote a tribute to him. I'll read some of this. Another Ace Falls. Our right community in New Mexico and the world of sci-fi and fantasy in general took a blow this afternoon when our friend Victor Milan died after 2 months of suffering and struggling in a series of Albuquerque hospitals. I first met Vic not long after I moved to Santa Fe in 1979. Outgoing, funny, friendly, and incredibly bright, he was one of the cornerstones of New Mexico sci-fi crowd for decades. A regular Bubonicon in Albuquerque. A perennial masquerade host in Archon in St. Louis, a fan, a lover of ferrets, and collector of guns, a gamer. I can't tell you how many times we stayed up till dawn playing Super World, Call of Cthulhu, and other RPGs with Vic and laughing at the outrageous antics of the characters he created. But above all, he was a writer. He wrote all sorts of things in and out of our genre: westerns, historicals, men's action, adventure, more books than I could possibly list, but it was in science fiction that he did his best work. Cybernetic Samurai and Cybernetic Shogun were two of his best known from the old days, and these were back in 85 and 90 when he wrote those two. More recently, he was finding new readers by the score all around the world with the Dinosaur Lords Series, which is what I just mentioned. He was also a wildcards writer, of course, one of my aces. In a sense, he was the father of wildcards. It was Vic who gave me the Super World game as a birthday present back in 1983, and it was those long, long nights of playing Super World that eventually inspired me to start wildcards. Vic was an integral part of the series right from the very first, and the characters created were among our most popular. Among them were the Russian Ace Molnia and the Harlem Hammer, the twisted German psychopath Mackie Messer, Dr. Pretorius, Ice Blue Sybil, Flipper, Dust and Darkness, and above all, Mark Meadows, a.k.a. Captain Trips, and his friends Jumpin' Jack Flash, Starshine, Moonchild, Aquarius, Cosmic Traveler, Monster, and the Radical. The long saga of Mark Meadows began in one volume, and was brought to a close in Volume 20, Suicide Kings. It was a long, strange trip indeed, and every step of it was exciting, thanks to Vic. Sadly, Vic's health has not been good in the past few years, and it finally gave out on him. But his wit and his talent will be long remembered by everyone who knew him, and his words will live on after him. And, as irony would have it, he has another story coming out tomorrow at Tor.com. It's a wildcard story called Every Night, set in the catacombs of Paris and featuring Cadence Sasu the Darkness, a character he introduced in Suicide Kings. The link will not go live until 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. But once it does, you can read the story here for free. He gives a link. It saddens me that that Vic did not live long enough to see his story on Tor.com or appreciate the gorgeous piece by John Picasso, the gorgeous piece of John Picasso art that adorns it. He was a huge fan of John's. But I hope that many of you will read Evernight. If you like it, do leave a comment. I think it would please him. Let's see. I believe that Vic may have another book or two in his Dinosaur Lord sequence coming out, but I'm not sure of that. I do know that he'll be represented in 2 more wildcard books. He has a story in Texas Hold'em due out in October in a collaboration of the book he was doing, Joker Moon. what would that I could say that there will be many more after that, but I fear that that will be the last. Fare thee well, Vic. It has been an honor knowing you. So, and I looked at looking at this guy's work on Wikipedia. He went by a lot of pseudonyms. He did the Guardian series as Richard Austin, which he's been doing throughout the 80s and early 90s. Storm Rider series as Robert Barron, he did that in the early 90s. He did the Donovan Steel series, S.L. Hunton, which was his name, S.L. Hunton, throughout the early 90s. He did 2 Mech Warrior novels, and before, in the early 2000s, and in the 1990s, he did 3 BattleTech novels. And of course, his famous ones that got him recognition: Cybernetic Samurai and Cybernetic Shogun, went 85 and 90. The War of Powers series, looks like there's about 6 books in that, which he's written with Robert E. Vardman. He's in a Forgotten Realms novel with Walter Valres, which is the War of Tethir. Of course, Wild Cards in 93. He did a Star Trek the Original Series novel, From the Depths, in 93. Of course, the Rogue Angel series, Alex Archer. Looks like there's 4 books in that. Of course, he did 3 novels, Rune Spears, Red Sands, CLD. And of course, the Dinosaur Lords series, which is where I've been reading him. That's the only series that I got into. Just because I looked at the cover, there's a wonderful cover and some good interior art, from each chapter. Really helps with all that. So, so here we have another man who has made a lifetime writer, and he died before finishing a series that he was working on. And, well, he's in good company. He's not the first guy that does that. I mean, many you could probably think of writers who died before finishing any of their works. I know of 2 off bat, which is Robert Jordan, famous for Wheel of Time series. He died before he finished his last book. And, of course, Frank Herbert, famous for his Dune series. He finished Chapter House Dune, left it on a cliffhanger, and he died after that, which was later finished. Both of these, Wheel of Time and Dune, were finished by other writers. Okay, I understand why they do it. I mean, fans of this would, love to, know how it finishes. And if the author left enough notes there, then you can get someone hired to write it out. But I always had a kind of a conflict with that. Unless you know for certain that the writer set this up to, okay, in case I die, this is the guy I want you to hire to finish my work. He understands my material. For good or for ill, let him finish it to complete the series. In both of these cases, I don't know if that was the case. It could be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Brian Herbert and Kevin Anderson finished up the Dune series and made a whole slew of prequels, which I never read any of them. I wasn't interested in the prequels. The series was nice and long enough as it is. All right. Now, maybe I could have gotten into the last books, but I talked to a couple people and they weren't so thrilled about the last 2 books to finish the series either. So, what we got? It is what it is. Now, as prolific as this guy was, each one of these books, the Dinosaur Lords, was coming out 1 a year. Now, before something gets on the shelves, the writer's got to write it first, and then it has to go through a few other processes before it's finally published. Maybe we're lucky and he did finish 2, maybe all 3, the last 3 books. Or enough to where they could take it, finish it up, polish it, and send it out, and we could be happy about that, because it's mostly him that did it. With other writers, they died before they even had a chance to even type the first word. So, there's a question I have to you. What other writers were you into at any time, any amount, that died before they finished? And how'd you feel about that? I am kind of curious what it could be any genre. It doesn't have to be fantasy science fiction. Those are just ones that a lot of us know. But could be westerns, could be murder mysteries, romance. Which ones were you into? So if you're interested in reading Victor Milan, of course there's the Dinosaur Lords Trilogy. These 3 books that I presented here, they're also in paperback. So in case you're not wanting to spend for the whole and want to save some room, trade up width and height for thickness to make it easy for you, they are in paperback, easily available. And give it a go. Victor Milan, if you, I will have to say, if I met him in person, it was entertaining for what I did read of your stuff, and I hope that maybe you went further enough to where it can be completed. So, it'll be a good stopping point for you. And my condolences to his friends and family for the loss of this man. Talented guy, and I would say I was entertained by what little I've read of him. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.